Betrayal is why you don't trust anymore. If you've ever been stabbed in the back and let down, then you know what betrayal is. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Today I'm going to talk to you about betrayal trauma because it is more common than you think. And many people experience this and repress the memory and just develop a survival strategy to deal with it. And then years later, you may think that everything's okay, you're okay, and then you realize that there's someone in your past and you think, oh yeah, that one person did me wrong. And that can create so much distrust, and that's why you hesitate to make any commitments of people, or why you may be standoffish, or why you don't let people in and keep people at arm's distance, and why you're so aloof and ambiguous with people and avoid connecting with people and keep everyone at arm's distance because you've been betrayed. And it's not a good feeling. You know, I've been betrayed in my past by some friends. Let's just say I'm 12 years old. I was hanging out and used to skateboard with some friends in junior high. And then all of a sudden, they're gone out of my life. And kids in the school were asking me, well, Spencer, why aren't you hanging out with Eric anymore? How come you guys don't talk? You guys used to be so close and good friends. And I was thinking, I don't know. He never said anything to me. He never had a conversation with me. And it was just kind of a shock to me. And sure, I felt hurt, felt abandoned, felt a sense of distrust, confusion. And then so I thought of, well, it's because he's a poser. And then they thought, oh, so that's why. So you actually stopped hanging out with him. I said, no, he just stopped calling me. He stopped returning my calls, stopped inviting me out. I don't know what his deal is. Maybe he stopped skateboarding because it's not it anymore. And I skateboarded and continued to skateboard. And he stopped because it's not popular anymore. And the other kids, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then word got back to him that, okay, Spencer's talking behind your back. And then they said, people came up to me, other kids said, Spencer, Eric wants you to say to his face, because you're talking behind his back. I said, sure, whatever. Said he wants you to say to his face so he can beat you up. I'm like, this is even worse. First he abandons me, then he threatens to beat me up. What kind of a person is this? So then finally one day I was in English class with Mrs. Razor, and I'm sitting in class. I just arrived. It's even a couple minutes before class. And all of these kids I see are gathering outside of the classroom door. And then one of the kids comes in and says, Spencer, Eric's out here. He wants to talk to you. And I thought to myself, okay, this is it. Let's see if he really does this, because I was his friend. Why would he try to beat up his friend? What human being would do that? So I go out there. All the kids form a circle. You know how it is. Remember those school days? And then Eric's standing in front of me. And he goes, say to my face. I go, oh, yeah, you're just a poser. I look right at him. And then I see his right arm. Like, it was like slow motion. Bam! And he clocks me in my cheek. And I barely felt it. I looked at him. I was like, I couldn't believe, I was in disbelief. I was like, he just really hit me. This is supposed to be my friend. Last time I saw him, we were laughing and skateboarding. Now he's punching me. And I look at him up and down. And I saw his jaw just like, his jaw dropped and his eyes were wide open. Because I just looked at him. I said, is that the hardest you got? Man, you're not even worth it. And I turned around and walked away. And everybody was like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, I really barely felt it. He gave me his hardest shot. And I just realized, man, these people, that's the way people are nowadays. And I wrote everybody off. That was my response. And it was not fair to people who were actually genuine and authentic in my life at that time. I wrote everybody off and assumed nobody was on my side. And that made me look at, believe that I'm on my own and I have to be strong. I've got to be tolerant to survive. I got to put up with shit. So if I'm going to be dominated, I might as well be the dominator because I'd much rather dominate than be dominated. So I became a real asshole. And that wasn't a healthy response, as we all know, being, people don't like assholes. But I became a real wise ass, stood up to everybody and everybody, teachers, kids. I just mouthed off to everybody. What are you going to do, hit me? I already took the hardest punch from the toughest kid in school. What more can you do to me? I've been betrayed, double crossed. What more can you do to me? What more hell do you want to put me through? How much is enough for your satisfaction and your amusement? Fuck you. That was my attitude. And I walked around in life with a chip on my shoulder. And it wasn't good. And I've had other incidences younger where my brother betrayed me, and we've already worked it out. But he didn't stand up for me when his friend was bullying me. And I looked at him, you're not my brother. You're no longer my brother. From this point forward, you're not my brother. You're supposed to stand up for your brother. Instead, you stood behind your friend, the bully. That was my first instance of trauma. And so this just kind of reinforced that not even my family and my friends, nobody is on my side. I felt really alone and felt just a sense of alienation from the world. And it caused me to panic. And that's what made me realize I've got nothing to lose. Nobody's on my side. I answer to nobody but me. I don't have to answer to you. I don't have to explain myself to you. Because who the hell are you? You're just going to betray me sooner or later. You're going to stab me in the back just like Eric, just like my brother. Why should I give you any mind at all? That was my attitude. Not a real healthy attitude, not a positive outlook on life, if you know what I mean. So that's my experience of betrayal. And the real challenge with betrayal is that it comes in stages, and this is why I wanted to talk to you, because there's stages of healing as well. And well, let me just dive right in. I'm going to use the 7-stage model. This is the most popular theory. There's also a 5-stage model by a psychologist named, let me look her up, Debbie Silber. She has a 5-stage model. That's her own model from she did her doctoral thesis on betrayal trauma. So, of course, she's going to personalize it and own that model. But it makes a lot of sense, too. But I'm going to use the 7-stage model because I'm not about ripping people off. I didn't create this. This is the model used in most schools of psychology. And so the first one is shock. There is a sheer sense of disbelief, a sheer sense of, oh my God, a sheer sense of confusion and surprise and feeling frozen. It's the flight or fight response. You feel overwhelmed and you become disassociated. It's just like you kind of become beside yourself. Like, what the hell's going on here? What reality I'm in? Your whole worldview is shattered. And your whole sense of reality is just, what is real? Who am I? Who are people? There's this real questioning of what the heck just happened. And then there's the denial. Did this just really happen? Did Eric really hit me? Is he really my... No. He maybe he's just a friend. And my brother, there's a denial. Now most betrayal happens from basically spousal cheating. One person cheats on the other. This is the most common form of betrayal that people can be conscious of. The problem with this is that's only one level. The real betrayal is cptsd. When you're abused by your parents, when you have an alcoholic father, narcissistic mother, whatever it is, you're sexually abused by your father or mother. Besides the trauma of the emotional self, the betrayal trauma is also woven into that. I'm going to make another video about that. But right now I want to focus on just betrayal trauma. Most common is marital affairs. But the other one is friends betraying you, people just letting you down. Maybe you counted on somebody and like, no, they couldn't have done that. Like I helped them and then they're not returning the help. Like what's going on? Nah, maybe they're just busy. You start creating excuses. There's a denial. There's just a sense of, you try to justify it and rationalize it. And this is when your friends and family may try to comfort you. Hey, we heard what happened. Are you okay? I'm here for you if you need me. And then you're like, what do I need you for? Nothing happened. It's the idea of, no, they couldn't have done that. This is common with cheating. Like, no, they couldn't be cheating. There's a real denial. When a spouse first finds out the other is cheating, there's a real sense of, no, that's not happening. It's a denial. It doesn't last very long because sooner or later you realize reality sets in and say, wow, this really did happen. This person did do this. And that's when the obsession stage 3 kicks in. It's when you realize what happened. And after you realize what happened, you become fixated. That son of a bitch. What the heck? Why did that happen? You start analyzing all the dynamics. What did I do? What did they do? What went wrong? How could that have happened? Why did Eric punch me? Why did he stop talking to me? Like what's going on with these people? What happened? The whole group of friends stopped talking to me. Now they're making fun of me. And it's like it's just one day they're my friend, the next day I'm their enemy. Why is that? Where did I go wrong? Why did they do that to me? And this leads to isolation. You start to ruminate. You just obsess constantly about what happened, trying to understand why this person betrayed you. And that's where the anger comes in. And you're like, that mofo, that motherfucker, that asshole. You start getting pissed. And that rage is really, it's the flight or fight system. And that's the fight aspect, because now you realize, I want to do something about it. I want to change it. And this can last for months. You can be resentful and angry, like I was for years, become really bitter, walk around with a chip on your shoulder, snap at people. What are you looking at? Why are you talking to me? That kind of thing. And you're just going to fuck me over too. You start getting angry at people for no reason. You become very distrustful of people. Never go out on a date again. I'm never getting married again. You hear this quite commonly with divorced people, where my husband cheated on me, or my wife cheated on me. Those women, or all men are the same. That kind of attitude is blame. And then what happens is it's kind of like, well, what did I do to cause them to cheat? My wife said I wasn't there for her enough. I didn't give her enough attention, or whatever it is. And, I could have done something. Well, it's too late now. The next time, the next woman I meet, or the next man I meet, I'm going to be different. I'm going to make sure that they're different. And as long as I do this differently, God, will you make my life better? You begin to make a deal with God and to try to fix things. And I'm going to clean my life up, or I'm never going out to the bars again and hanging out with the boys, or I'm never going to have another girls' night out, or whatever it is. I'm never going to let my husband go out with the boy. I'm never going to let my wife dress up like that when she goes out with her friends. I'm going to look for these signs. As long as I look for these signs, I can stop it ahead. Okay, God, just show me the signs, and then I won't get angry anymore. I won't be pissed anymore. That kind of just bargaining, with God, with yourself. You may make promises to the person who betrayed you, like, hey, just take me back. Make sure this is still recording here. You may make promises, hey, I'll change, I'll do that, I'll give you the attention you want, I'll cook you dinner now, or whatever it is. Like it's like you just can't win, though, because it's just a form of justification you create in your mind to kind of appease your anger. And these stages is where you can really get stuck in. The bargaining, because once you compromise to try to restore the relationship, you begin to blame yourself. And what can I do to fix it? And you justify the betrayal with blaming yourself, or blaming others, or blaming the circumstance. Oh, it's just because our kids were causing this, or the job I had, the stress at work, or maybe for me, it was I never was truly authentic with my friends, and so they didn't trust me. It could be that. And I start believing these things. You start believing these things. Maybe it's not all them. There's a part of me that is not good enough, and like I'm not good enough. And then that's when the depression starts to sink in. You sink into sadness and despair. And there's a sense of, I'm a victim. What did I do wrong? They did this to me, and there's nothing I can do about it. A sense of powerlessness and helpless. I can't get my kids back. My wife took my house. She took the cars. She took the kids. I got to make alimony, and I got to make child support. And then all that bitter. It's just like you give up because you can't change anything. Anger is a desire to take action. And when you realize you can't take any effective action to change a circumstance, that anger turns inward, and then you experience depression. And these three stages, the depression, the bargaining, and the anger, is really you figure out a way to survive it. You develop a survival strategy to get through it. Because sooner or later, the depression, it gets old. You're like, okay, I got to I'm just going to do this. I'm never trusting anyone again. I'm never letting anyone in again. I'm never getting married again. That's how I'm going to deal with it. And or you develop some other rule. For me, it's like I'm going to keep everybody at arm's distance. I'm just going to entertain people, but never let anybody in. I'm going to become popular, but never close with anybody. That's what I did. I became very notorious in high school. And people knew my name. I made sure they knew my name. I made an impression, but also, I made sure to excel at what I did to make sure you can't knock me down. I'm on the honor roll. I'm getting second and third place in skateboarding competitions. I'm leading the skateboarding movement. Now I'm leading the snowboarding movement. Make fun of me. You know what that is? That's just more attention to me. That just makes me more popular. So for me, that became a strategy. And then it was like, no, everything's fine. I learned this is my winning strategy. As long as I keep applying this, I'm going to succeed at what I do. Won a 5-year scholarship. Like, fuck you. You thought I was that loser skateboarder, wasn't going to do anything with life. Like, look at me now. That kind of attitude. And, you walk around in life with this kind of, hey, everything's fine. And maybe things work out. Maybe you get into another marriage, you get into another relationship. Maybe, maybe your business partner betrayed you, stole all the funds. You open up a new business and say, I am not partnering up with anybody again. This is a sole proprietorship. This is a sole owner. I'm not, and I'm going to own the majority of shares. No one's going to threaten my business ever again. Whatever the situation was, you adapt and you create the survival strategy that you live by. And then you think everything's okay. And then midlife crisis hits. Or something hits again. Or you may be saying, I have this kind of underlying lethargy, like kind of a depression. Put on a good show at work. Everybody thinks I'm happy. When I go home, I'm just depressed. Or I have this anxiety. I've had it for years. I just can't figure out why. Or I get triggered at work when somebody says something to me and I explode on people. I just don't know why. You may see a psychologist and fill out some intake form, and then everything seems to be fine. I'm doing well at work. I got a new wife, and whatever it is, I'm making enough money to make the alimony, and everything's fine. The kids are growing up. No child support's over, and I got it together now. But I have this underlying something, and I can't put a finger on it. And then you look in your history, and you find out there's a betrayal. And it's like, oh yeah, this person double-crossed me. But it's like, well, I thought I dealt with it. Because you're living out of a survival strategy. You're just living to survive. You weren't living to thrive. You weren't living your true heart's desire, your true ambition. And so it may feel successful, but in some level you don't feel fulfilled. And that's where that emptiness comes in. There's a shame. There's a real deep sense of shame woven into betrayal, shame and guilt. And that shame is the emptiness. And maybe you become a lush. You start drinking a glass of wine every day after work. It turns into a bottle of wine every day after work. You don't drink during work. Maybe it's a couple shots of whiskey. Maybe it's a 6-pack of beer. Maybe it's the avoiding something and you're going somewhere, going to the gym, like something you may think is a positive thing, but it's actually you're avoiding something. And that's the survival strategy. So it may appear that everything's okay, but actually it's not. So when you come to terms with, okay, I was betrayed and this is how I dealt with it, and that's the reason why, yeah, things work out on the surface, but underneath I'm not happy, something's got to give. And that's when you come to terms. This is the acceptance stage, stage 7. So this is the ability, when you realize you're not a victim anymore. When you realize, well, how I feel is up to me, that no one can control how I feel, that I'm in control of my own feelings, that my sense of satisfaction and fulfillment is my responsibility. I'm accountable for that. And God, I was a jerk to some people. And God, I pushed people away that probably would have been made great friends. Or man, that girl was really good to me and I dumped her. I don't know why I did that. Or if you're a woman, hey, I dated this guy. He seemed really good, but I dumped him for another jerk. And now I'm back in square one again. Why did I get here? So you begin to focus on what's best for you. And you realize that the way of life you've been living just hasn't been best for you. I drink a 6-pack every day. I'm overweight. I got diabetes now. It's not good for me. Yeah, I was escaping this feeling of shame and guilt and sadness. Well, instead of doing that, why don't I go work out now, get myself in shape, really take care of myself, really love myself, eat healthy, learn to communicate more effectively, to develop authentic conversations and authentic relationships with people, and understand myself and people in my life better, and form agreements. Make it so, hey, you need to honor your word with me. I need to get an agreement, a gentleman's handshake, just so it gives me reassurance that I know you say what you mean. Maybe formulating, building trust, different values on which you can relate to people on, so you know that there's an authentic conversation happening. And you can't change in other people. You can't control other people. You can only control yourself. So having a real understanding of, what is actually controllable in your life between what you can control. You can't control circumstance all the time. You can only control your reaction to circumstance. In other words, instead of just reacting like a knee-jerk reaction, you respond. And it's mind over matter. When you're able to have emotional intelligence, when you understand what your emotions are saying to you, and you understand what you think and what you feel impacts other people due to the mirror neurons. If you're in a bad mood but putting on a smile, people will sense that in you. So you may say, I don't feel like talking right now. I just have a lot on my mind. I won't be a pleasant person to spend time with. I need to cool down. I'm going to go to the gym, get my frustrations out. I'm going to go hit the heavy bag in the backyard, whatever it is. I'm going to go play my guitar, and I'm going to deal with something happened to me, or my boss is giving me a hard time. I've got to finish up this work project. Let's hang out another time. You figure out a way to express your boundaries more effectively where the other person understands, oh, this is where you're at. No, I completely understand. Hey, I'm sorry. I know we made this commitment, but I got to break it. I really apologize. I'll make it up to you next time. You learn how to express yourself effectively, your boundaries, because you got betrayed because you didn't know how to express your boundaries in the first place. And that's what it is. You were just young and naive back then, and you're a child. What could you have known? Or, you really believed this person loved you, and they led you on to believe that the person loved you, and you weren't reading the signs because you were emotionally absent. Taking ownership is really about developing emotional intelligence. And when you're able to develop emotional intelligence, read your own feelings and then read other people's feelings, you have a deeper sense of empathy. And when you have a deeper sense of empathy, your communication, your relationships will transform. Where you can detect if somebody is like untrustworthy. If a person is selfish, you can tell when a person's really selfish. You know what I mean? They never offer any help. They kind of only call you when they want something. They're only around when there's something in it for them. You know what I mean? And they only offer something to get something in return, not out of generosity. You can tell when somebody is really selfish. They don't express any care, empathy, or concern for anybody. You can actually look at that person and say, well, what I know about selfish people, maybe they're not evil, you know what I mean? They're not like a criminal or anything like that. They're just selfish. It doesn't make them bad. It just means that a selfish person can turn on a dime. 1 minute they'll be on your side. The next minute they're off, not there for you. So you got to understand people's personalities and take ownership of that. Like, why would I develop a commitment with somebody who's selfish? Why would I create a commitment with someone who's unreliable? Why would I put somebody whom I know is in a position that they're in over their head and then expect them to succeed in it? That's setting them up for failure. Or if someone's setting you up for failure, like that's the way that position is, I'm in over my head. This work assignment, I'm in over my head. Like, I can't fulfill this. I'm going to need either help, or if you want to demote me, I'll take less pay. You figure out a way to make it work, but you acknowledge that, hey, I'm in over my head. So you don't set yourself up for failure. And that's just a matter of communication and a matter of having emotional intelligence. So you no longer feel like a victim, and you can resolve what happened with the person in your past by resolving your own emotional understanding. You just didn't know. You didn't read the signs. You weren't paying attention to your own emotions. So you can forgive, but you don't forget. Because certainly you don't want to go through that again. But now you know the signs to look for. You know not to enter into a relationship of that nature. And it's not about what the other person did. It's about what you have learned from it and what you can do from this point forward. You cannot change the past, but you can change the present and thereby change the future. So when you realize that you have a choice, that you can choose based upon, well, I'm getting a funny feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need to honor my feelings. I don't want to add more stress to my life by engaging in this relationship that'll put me in over my head, or engage in this relationship that I know is not a trustworthy relationship. You don't enter into those dynamics to begin with because you know in your gut feeling it makes you feel uncomfortable. Instead of playing macho, instead of feeding yourself a fantasy, you be honest with yourself. And that's really what it comes down to. That's how you get out of victimhood. And you come to acceptance, and that's when you feel liberated. And then like, whoa, okay, I was just playing this weird game with people and myself. That's not the real me. Well, what is the real me? What are my core values? What's really important to me? What makes me feel real joy, just pure joy beyond any condition? And what am I proud of? What's something I can look back and actually be proud of? A sense of gratitude and deep appreciation for my life and my direct involvement in it. And those are the basis of your core values. When you discover those, then you discover your authentic self. And when you find your authentic self, then nobody can knock you down. Nobody can take advantage of you. Nobody can betray you because you just won't let yourself be betrayed. And that's the way out of it. And that's how you heal from it, is you can't change the other person, but you can certainly change how you respond and how you relate to your own emotions, how you respond to people rather than react to people. Because so many of us are stuck in survival, just reacting to the world. And we can't see past our own survival strategies. We actually define our survival strategies as me. This is who I am. This is me. And it's just a survival strategy. It's an adaptation to a very extremely challenging event, a traumatic event that happened earlier in your life. And that survival strategy became so commonplace in your life that you got so used to being that you just resigned into that. But now you're realizing that it's not fulfilling, it's not satisfying. Something's got to give. You need to change, you need to grow. And that's, you develop emotional intelligence and develop a sense of authenticity and work on your communication. Those are the action steps you can take to get out of betrayal trauma. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Go ahead and leave a comment below so I can engage you and get to know, what's happening in your life. And if this has ever happened to you, I can help you through this. I'm a trauma-informed life coach, and I'm here to help you succeed, experience fulfillment, and experience satisfaction so you can live the life you're truly meant to live. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Thank you so much for listening.